What exactly is the most you should pay for your gaming computer? Today I'm going to go over a bunch of different average price points and give you an accurate representation of what price you should set as a max limit, and of course what they include in the price if you want to have RGB, fancy casing, things like that, because that actually doesn't necessarily mean a lot. And I want to take today's video because overkill is a pretty substantial problem. People like to go above and beyond what's ever going to be needed, and so I'm going to be really breaking it down for you into the kind of categories you can go to and kind of the point of diminishing returns in the sense of upgrading your PC or putting more into your PC. So let's talk about that. First of all, if we have multiple graphics card options out right now. NVIDIA is not releasing a graphics card this year, and AMD, of course, is releasing the Vega 2. If you want proof of that, NVIDIA is I've made multiple videos talking about proof for all that stuff. So basically, we have the multiple levels that you can go for. So a good average budget I like to recommend to people is $2,000. Now, why? Because you can really get a 1080 Ti, a good processor, everything you need, 16 gigs of RAM, and you can, even have a nice looking case, all for under $2,000. When you go above $2,000, you really start getting into a zone where, yes, you can go for liquid cooling. And don't get me wrong, liquid cooling is awesome. I don't blame you. Liquid cooling is cool, but it's not necessarily needed. Now, obviously, if you want to go in for, looks, there's a whole nother category you can go into. But basically, for performance-wise, we're just going to basically be talking about what you get in games, and I guess the other ways you can use that money to increase your gaming experience rather than just getting 3 graphics cards and, getting i9, something like that. Basically, my point being is I want people to not necessarily go spend, if someone has a $3,000 budget, I would recommend getting a maybe 2K monitors, 144 hertz, 1 millisecond refresh rate, getting 3 of those, 2 of those, and that same amount of money you could be spending in your computer. Why? Because a graphics card, that might be a good example of where SLI might become in handy, but when you really start reaching that point at the upper end of the budget, then that's where you start running into problems. And that's for an upper end budget scenario. Let's talk about $1,000. $1,000 is also a good budget for something like a 1060 and maybe a Ryzen 1500, 2500X or something along there, or maybe like an i5 from Intel's line. That's a really good price point because you still can get something like RGB. Cooler Master has like a Master Box Lite RGB, which looks absolutely insane RGB, and it's like 60 bucks. So looking at that, you really don't have to go overboard anymore. Especially when like the RGB LED strips I actually have sitting in the system back here were only like 20 bucks for like 3 strips, and I have it all in that system, and I actually had extras that I have underneath the table. So my point being is, if you really want to have something that looks nice, you don't have to spend an absorbent amount. And basically that $1,000 price range is good for 1080p gaming. You can get maybe a 144 hertz refresh rate. You'll have no problem streaming anything. That's a really good mid-range budget PC that you don't have to go spending an absorbent amount of money on, obviously, you're going mid-range. You're not expecting to spend an absorbent amount of money, but you don't have to spend a lot of money on graphics. And I would say that's pretty much all you need for 1080p. You're wondering, why I have a 1080? Well, I have 2 monitors, and I do a lot of video editing, which is kind of important for a graphics card to have. But my point being is, maybe you're a gamer, and this is only for the gaming situation as well, because I wouldn't recommend people that are doing content creation. There's some wiggle room in there, especially when you start getting into needing more RAM, 4K editing, things like that. You really start pushing the boundaries of what's needed and what's not. And I would just say for gaming, $2,000 is a great budget that leaves you plenty of room, especially now with graphics cards coming back down, $750, $1080 Ti's out there right now that you can buy. That basically brings your budget pretty much nice where it should be at $2,000. So I hope you enjoyed today's video.